some updates on the Fani Willis situation. Will, there was some sort of statement made. And of course, that statement is mapped with threats and so on.
Right, and I think we should play it right off the bat here so we can get Jordan's take on it as well. This is, as we know, that the Judge McAfee, gave a certificate of immediate review to the defendants that requested it, and when they cited that the court found an appearance of impropriety and an odor of mendacity lingered in the case, and they were using the judge's own words there. But CNN caught up with Fani Willis at an event, and when they asked her about how the case is moving forward, this was her response. Let's go ahead and play it.
No, my team's been continuing to work, and I think the media, and especially organizations like your own, have been paying attention. All while that was going on, we were writing responsive briefs. We were still doing the case in the way that it needed to be done. I don't feel like we've been slowed down at all. I do think that there are efforts to slow down this train, but the train is coming.
The train is coming if President Trump doesn't win on appeal at the appellate court and then the Georgia Supreme Court. So that train has a lot of steps to go through before it even starts back on the tracks. And Logan, I really do believe there is a good chance, not 100%, a good chance that ultimately Fani Willis does not become the DA and her whole department gets thrown out of this case. Now, you never know what courts are going to do, but these Georgia courts, we've already had her head attorney she specifically chose to handle the most complex part of this case tossed out because of what Will said, the impropriety and the odor. And guess what? We all know this. As long as Fani Willis is conducting this case, Logan, the odor is getting stronger and stinkier. And just listen to that statement again, and it reeks of someone who needs to be taken out. And if she goes, the entire DA's office goes, and a new DA gets appointed, and I don't think this case ever gets restarted again for any of the defendants, including, of course, President Trump.
And Jordan, I want to get your take on another bite that came out of DA Fani Willis over when she spoke with CNN. And I want to give the context once again for the audience to make sure that when they hear this soundbite, what the context of what reality is. Because remember, the judge found an appearance of impropriety. He found an odor of mendacity, which is an odor of lies that continued to linger in the case, as well as the speech she gave in the church while all this is going on, he said was legally improper. So that's the context of the reality we're living in when she gives this bite by 21 to CNN. Let's take a listen.
I don't feel like my reputation needs to be reclaimed. Let's say it for the record. I'm not embarrassed by anything I've done. I guess my greatest crime is I had a relationship with a man, but that's not something that I find embarrassing in any way. And I know that I have not done anything that's illegal.
This idea, again, that I don't feel like my reputation needs to be reclaimed. Listen, you had your specially chosen RICO specialist who had no expertise in RICO, who happened to be at least someone you were dating, if not an official boyfriend, and you paid him almost $800,000, and he had never done a case like this in his life. So you took $800,000 from the taxpayers of Georgia and Fulton County, and by the way, federal taxpayers, because these DA offices get your federal tax dollars too, so all of us, whether you live in Georgia or not. And if that happens, guess what? You've still got issues surrounding you, and that's why it's going to be appealed. If there were no issues that were significant surrounding her, none of these attorneys would file these appeals. You just want to move on because you'd think, you know what, we're going to have to go up against Fani Willis. If we really think we're going to 100% lose these appeals, we just need to drop this and move on and fight hard against her. But because the judge went halfway, the Court of Appeals, I think, is going to say, how can you do that? How can you say this guy that isn't really an official, elected official, by taking him out, somehow changes the fact that the decision maker, Fani Willis, has now been cleansed? Absolutely not. She needs to go. The ACLJ believes that. You'll see it in our briefs, and that's why we want your support. Legitimately, she did this. It's not just because she's a Democrat prosecutor and we don't like that she's prosecuting Republicans or President Trump. She's done something wrong in the system of law. And to preserve our legal system, equal justice under law, We have to remove the bad actors from the government. She's one of those bad actors, and the ACLJ is going to fight it at the Court of Appeals and the Georgia Supreme Court and anywhere else we need to go.
There's nothing I would like more than to never say the words Fani Willis again, specifically on this broadcast. I feel like it is like
There's
the
an
odor of
mendacity.
that is a part of it, but it's also, I mean, it is part of the breaking news story. It is part of the election season. What's happening, we can't not cover it. But if this could be headed towards the end, I think it'd be better for the country. It'd be better for all of us.
The judge went halfway in cleaning up this case, but I don't think he cleaned this whole case up. The impropriety, the odor of mendacity, if people said, it just reeks. And I think it kind of reeks even more when you hear statements like that. Like, that's not how prosecutors are supposed to talk. They're supposed to be serious. It's not about like the train's going to get going. But here's what we know. The train is rapidly going to the Georgia Court of Appeals. And it's not a guarantee, but they could take her off the case because of the evidence provided easily. I mean, there's enough evidence there, and that means her whole office is off, a new DA gets appointed, and that DA could decide to drop all of this. It's case over. And even if she wins at the Georgia Court of Appeals, guess what? You can appeal it to the Georgia Supreme Court. Now, again, that's not 100% that you're going to win, but I want everyone listening to understand this right now about what the ACLJ is going to do. Because you may say, okay, what can the ACLJ do in this matter? The ACLJ, which has a lot of expertise actually in Georgia law, and especially in the kind of DA system, prosecutorial system, because of that, we'll be filing at the Georgia Court of Appeals to have Fani Willis removed and putting those arguments forward. And then if we need to, we'll be filing at the Georgia Supreme Court to have Fani Willis removed, because we want to preserve the system and the rule of law in the United States as best we can. And we are seeing it, I think, used against President Trump in the worst way possible. It's supposed to be equal justice under law, and it's not. Now, what we saw in New York was good. The fact that there was some clear minds there to remove, lower that bond to something, I guess, reasonable, instead of $500 million, because I think they're worried that if New York is seen as an anti-business city, which it is the kind of city of business and banks and financing, that it would destroy New York, which is already going through a tough time. I think here in Georgia, when you get to the Court of Appeals, these are not judges that have to be as concerned with Fani Willis and having to deal with her on cases all the time and her team all the time. They're going to look at the facts. And Logan, if we can win at the Court of Appeals, she might appeal to the Georgia Supreme Court, and we'll be ready to fight there. So I want the ACLJ members and donors to know we are going to be fighting this until the end to do everything we can to get Fani Willis removed from this case. And we're going to need your resources to do it. You donate right now at aclj.org, and you double your impact through our Life and Liberty Challenge. And if you can make a monthly recurring contribution at aclj.org, be at the tip of the spear, make that contribution today, because I'm telling you, folks, we're right on the edge of getting this case, I wouldn't say dismissed, but I'd say finished.